Now back to the show. This is The Law Show on CL 650.
Help, I need somebody help, not just anybody.
Welcome back to The Law Show. I'm Sterling Fox with Gordon Maynard and Rudy Kisher from Maynard Kisher Stoicevich Immigration and Citizenship Lawyers, who help a lot of people every year, talking about citizenship issues and, of course, as they will be treated by the new government of Canada, all of 4 or 5 weeks into position now, and struggling with a monumental challenge of becoming the new government and dealing with, shall we say, transitioning world realities at the same time. Wanted to spend a little bit of time here in this final segment of the program talking about, among other things, express entry. Gordon, this is something that you and I have bashed around a few times in the past. What do we know about the new government and their sentiments and approach to express entry in immigration law?
They've only said one thing, and that's part of the marching orders that were given to the minister from Prime Minister Trudeau. They said that in the express entry pool, additional points should be given to persons who have siblings in Canada.
Okay.
And this would help those applicants get pulled from the pool. The additional points presumably would assist them to get pulled. My personal opinion is it's a real tiny Band-Aid on a really tiny issue.
Okay.
It misses hugely what the biggest problems are with express entry. And we haven't heard anything said by the government about how to deal with those problems.
And what would those problems be? What are the biggest problems from your perspective with respect to express entry?
The inability to select people who are otherwise qualified as intercompany transferees or as Canada Experience class applicants. These are people who are here as vice presidents of companies.
And a lot of them would be clients of yours too, and the companies. And so you see this firsthand every day.
We see this firsthand.
Right.
The selection points have not dropped below 451. That's as low as they've gone. Underneath 450, down when you get down to the 425, 400 level, maybe the high 300s, there's a huge balloon of applicants sitting in that pool, a huge number, who used to be qualified for immigration to Canada, but the points haven't dropped down to select them. And now the worry is, how does the government manipulate the selection tool to reach some of those people without opening the door to tens of thousands that they don't want?
Right.
So it's a difficult problem, and nobody's talked about it. Nobody's talked about it.
So is it likely that it can't be allowed to fester and get worse?
Oh, I don't. I've seen Gordon and I disagree on this. He thinks the government's going to there's going to be some reaction.
And
from the
you're not as optimistic.
I'm not very. I think problems in the government can sit and fester. We should take a look at what's happened in Paris and Beirut. It's clear that what's on the front of the minister's plate is going to be the resettlement of these refugees, right, and dealing with those security concerns.
Yep.
And I think this economic, getting people here faster as economic immigrants, when this government has clearly talked about, even the one change they're talking about to express entry is to increase the family class, some sort of association with a sibling. Yeah. That's clearly where their priority is.
Right.
And I don't think, making it better, what they should be doing, I'm not disagreeing with Gordon in terms of what needs to be done. I just don't see them having the time. It's not their focus right now.
So it wasn't on their political agenda during the election, and that's why our focus isn't on it. But the department knows there's a problem.
Yeah.
The department this is something that's going to have to be addressed in 2016.
Now, is it likely, going back to my question from the previous segment, talking about the quota system that we seem pretty married to, roughly 275, 280,000 a year, if the 25,000 refugees that we're about to accept cause somebody to get bumped if they want to stay within that quota number, is it express entry candidates, Gordon, that would be the most likely subjects?
Those are the economic applicants.
I think that's the only room they can really budge, because if you take a look at they've promised to increase family class, right? They've promised to increase refugees. They have agreements with the provinces already on what we call provincial agreements.
Exactly, yeah.
So what are you left with? The only area that really they can cut without increasing the number of total immigrants. So can we make the plane bigger, like to use that plane analogy?
Sure, yeah.
But how do you say we're going to let more people in, we're going to put more people on the plane to come to Canada, when that's not what you campaigned on? You didn't campaign on that, number one. The economy's not doing great. It's getting worse. Mm-hmm. Terrorist concerns are obviously on the rise. I don't think there's a lot of appetite to let more people in. I don't think it's going to happen. And when you take a look the way the family system's broken, we were talking a little bit about spousal class right now. If you get married to a foreign national in Canada.
I'm glad you're bringing this up. We don't have a lot of time left, but I'm glad you're bringing this up.
You can imagine.
This is important, friends. Listen to this part.
So you get married to a foreign national, American woman here, maybe studying at school or working here, and you want to sponsor, you're married now, that sponsorship application for an in-Canada application will take 2 years. We currently have this express entry system for somebody that has no connection to Canada except for maybe a job offer. They can get permanent residency in 6 months.
Right.
So I'm a Canadian taxpayer. I vote. I've got, I may be in the military, have served overseas, and all of a sudden, a foreign national, no connection to Canada, is getting here in 6 months getting permanent. Meanwhile, my wife, I've been married to for 2 years, is sitting here languishing her file for 2 years. I'd be pretty irate, and my clients are pretty irate about that. So I think that's going to. The other one is PR cards, which is clearly a problem that they're going to have.
Permanent resident cards, right?
Permanent resident cards.
We touched on this earlier, Gordon. What's the beef here with the permanent residence cards?
Permanent residence cards need to be carried by permanent residents. They're used for travel. Airlines need to see them in order to come onto the plane.
Right.
As
They
a permanent
substitute
resident.
as a passport then, right?
No, you still have a passport, but to prove your right of entry, like you might have a UK passport, but you're a permanent resident of Canada.
Resident, sure.
The airlines need to see your card. And that's going to be mandatory when they bring in the ETA system that's coming in March 2016.
Right.
The problem is that these cards expire every 5 years, and you got to apply to renew them.
Right.
That's not a big deal as long as the process acts quickly. It does not.
Uh-oh.
And it's a huge problem.
Right. So it's not
these
like a driver's license or something like that.
No, I renewed my driver's license the other day. It took me 10 minutes.
Yeah.
PR cards are taking anywhere from 6 months to a year and a half or more to process. It depends whether they think your application is got issues or not, and they just don't have enough people doing them.
They end up, to give the Vancouver numbers, they got 900 applications sitting there with 9 officers to process them.
They got you can't get on a plane without this card. So if you're a business traveler,
right,
now you have to make an application overseas for a special document to allow you to get on the plane to come back, and that's an enforcement tool. So this problem is out of control.
Right.
Out of control.
And friends, by the way, if you're facing some of these immigration issues and are finding it, well, to say the very least, somewhat confusing, please take heart in the fact that my lawyer guests are finding it almost equally as confusing. The difference being that they actually sort it all out at the end of the day. And by the way, if you want to check them out online, it's VancouverLaw.ca. Vancouverlaw, one word, .ca. That's the Maynard Kisher Stoicevich website, and there's all sorts of terrific links, great information pieces, and of course, all the contact points for Gordon Maynard, Rudy Kisher, and Alex Stoicevich. Good to see you both, guys. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you, Sterling.
We'll do it again in a few weeks.
Thanks for having us, Sterling.
See you next time, right here on The Law Show.